Depths of secrecy. The crushing darkness of the Challenger Deep seemed to swallow Commander Maya Reyes as she guided the advanced submersible through waters no ordinary vessel could withstand. At nearly 11,000 meters below sea level, the weight of the ocean pressed against the revolutionary hull with forces that would have pulverized conventional submarines. But there was nothing conventional about the Poseidon-class vessel, just as there was nothing conventional about Operation Abyssal Shield. Approaching insertion point, Maya announced through her neural interface, which transmitted directly to Admiral Harrison Chen waiting in the command center embedded within the abyssal seafloor. Quantum signatures stable. No surface detection. Proceed with docking procedure. Admiral Chen's voice responded inside her mind. The quantum encrypted communication impossible to intercept with any known technology. Council is assembled for your briefing. Operation Abyssal Shield had begun 8 years earlier when a deep-sea mining operation stumbled upon something impossible, a perfectly geometric structure of non-terrestrial origin buried beneath 30 meters of sediment at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. What they found inside changed humanity's understanding of their place in the cosmos forever. Maya guided her vessel into the massive underwater hangar, where the true scope of humanity's greatest secret revealed itself. The facility stretched for kilometers in every direction, a technological marvel hidden from the eyes of most humans, and more importantly, from the watchful gaze of those beyond Earth. The submersible locked into its docking station with a satisfying clunk. Maya removed her neural interface and made her way through the pressurized corridors to the central command center. The Council of 12 waited for her, the heads of the world's most powerful nations and corporations, united in secret by the knowledge that humanity was not alone, and that the others among the stars were not friendly. Commander Reyes, Admiral Chen greeted her, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays showing the status of the global operation. Your reconnaissance findings, please. Maya placed a quantum data core on the central console. It projected a three-dimensional map of the solar system, with a pulsing red anomaly approaching from beyond the Kuiper Belt. The quantum disturbance has grown by 34% since last month, she reported. Our deep space sensors confirm it's not a natural phenomenon. The signature matches the patterns described in the Vaulted Archive. The Vaulted Archive was what they call the alien database discovered in that first submerged structure. It contained warnings from a long-dead civilization, one that had fallen to an expansionist empire called the Vesikar Dominion. The warnings were clear. The Vesikar conquered through overwhelming force, targeting developing worlds just as they achieved spaceflight capability, but before they could establish meaningful defenses. Timeline to arrival, asked President Komechi of the Pacific Alliance. 14 months, 17 days, Maya answered. Give or take a week. The room fell silent. They had been preparing for this moment since the discovery, but hearing the countdown made it real in a way nothing else had. Show them, Admiral Chen instructed Maya. She interfaced with the holographic system again, and the display transformed to show the true extent of Operation Abyssal Shield. Beneath the world's oceans, not just the Pacific, but every major ocean basin, vast underwater facilities had been constructed in absolute secrecy. Within these facilities, ships, not ordinary naval vessels, but spacecraft unlike anything publicly known. Production has exceeded projections, Maya reported. Fleet strength stands at 1.78 million primary vessels, with 5.3 million support craft. The alien propulsion systems we reverse-engineered from the archive have been successfully implemented across 94% of the fleet. Quantum shielding is operational on all vessels. Director Elizabeth Morgan of the Global Science Directorate took over, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. The Vesikar expect to find a primitive species with rudimentary space capabilities. According to the archive, their standard procedure is to position their fleet on the dark side of our moon, then launch a devastating first strike against our space infrastructure before demanding unconditional surrender. She paused, allowing herself a small smile. They have no idea what's waiting for them. The fleet was humanity's greatest achievement, a technological leap born of desperation and ingenuity. When the archive had been discovered, the world's greatest minds had been quietly assembled, sworn to secrecy, and given unlimited resources. The technologies they developed merged human innovation with the scientific principles gleaned from the archive. The oceans had been the perfect hiding place. While the Vesicar monitored Earth's space activities, they remained oblivious to what was happening beneath the waves. Quantum camouflage technology kept the massive construction projects hidden from even the most sophisticated orbital scans. Dr. Sanjay Patel, the genius physicist who had deciphered the alien propulsion systems, explained the strategic advantage. The Vesicar rely on detecting specific energy signatures associated with advanced propulsion and weapon systems. Our fleet emits none of these signatures while dormant. When they emerge from the oceans, the Vesicar will have no warning. The implications were clear. Humanity would not be another conquered civilization added to the Vesicar's long list of subjugated worlds. They would be the first to fight back effectively. The surface nations need to be prepared, said General Hedaya Mbeki of the African Confederation. Once the Vesicar arrive, maintaining the secrecy of Abyssal Shield becomes pointless. Governments will need to prevent panic when alien ships appear in our skies. Admiral Chen nodded. Operation Lighthouse begins next week. Key officials worldwide will be briefed on a need-to-know basis. Public preparation narratives will be distributed through appropriate channels, disguised as disaster readiness protocols. Maya studied the faces around the table. These men and women carried the weight of humanity's survival on their shoulders, and had done so in absolute secrecy for nearly a decade. The strain showed in their eyes, but so did resolve. "There's something else," Maya said, activating a secondary projection. Deep space telemetry has detected communications between the approaching fleet and another group of vessels waiting at the edge of the Oort cloud. We believe the Vesicar have established a forward operating base there. Director Morgan frowned. That wasn't in their standard tactics according to the archive. The archive is thousands of years old. Admiral Chen reminded her. Tactical evolution is inevitable, even for empire builders like the Vesicar. Have they detected Abyssal Shield? President Kamachi asked, voicing everyone's primary concern. Negative, Maya assured them. Our quantum encryption remains uncompromised. But this does suggest they're being more cautious than anticipated. The next several hours were consumed with finalizing deployment strategies and contingency plans. When the meeting concluded, Maya found herself alone with Admiral Chen in the command center, both staring at the holographic representation of the approaching threat. "Do you think we can win?" Maya asked quietly. Admiral Chen's expression remained impassive, but his voice carried the weight of his conviction. They expect sheep ready for slaughter. Instead, they'll find wolves that have been preparing for the hunt. He turned to face her directly. Humanity has always been at its best when facing extinction, Commander. Innovation born from necessity, cooperation forced by crisis. We've spent our history fighting each other, but now we fight together. Maya nodded, finding strange comfort in his words. As she returned to her submersible for another patrol mission, she considered the vast underwater Armada waiting silently in the depths. The Vesicar Dominion had conquered countless civilizations across the galaxy, but they had never encountered humans before. In 14 months, they would learn what that meant. First contact. The day the Vesicar arrived began like any other for most of Earth's population. Despite the preparation, despite Operation Lighthouse's careful dissemination of information to key officials, the sudden appearance of over 300 massive vessels in Earth orbit still sent shockwaves through human civilization. Social media exploded with images of the alien ships, each one larger than the largest human aircraft carrier, their hulls shimmering with an iridescent material unknown to public science. In her command center 9,000 meters beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Elizabeth Hayes watched the global reaction with clinical detachment. As Supreme Commander of Operation Abyssal Shield, she had spent the last 6 years preparing for this moment. Now, As panicked reports flooded in from surface nations, she remained calm, observing the Vesicar fleet's deployment pattern on the vast holographic display. Standard Vesicar Conquest Formation, noted Strategic Director Wen Liu, her second in command, exactly as the archive predicted. Their command vessel has positioned itself above the North Atlantic, with support ships establishing geosynchronous positions over major population centers. Hayes nodded. And our assets. All fleets report ready status. Quantum shielding at maximum efficiency. Surface communications blackout has begun. The Vesicar had commenced their standard protocol by disrupting all electromagnetic communications on Earth, an expected move that would have crippled a less prepared civilization. But Operation Abyssal Shield had established quantum-entangled communication channels years ago, completely immune to any form of interference. They're broadcasting, announced Communications Director Fatima Al-Zahrani. The main screen shifted to show the first images of Earth's would-be conquerors. The Vesicar appeared vaguely reptilian, with elongated skulls and skin that seemed to shift colors subtly as they moved. Their commander, distinguished by elaborate markings on his face and torso, spoke in a harsh, clicking language that the AI translation system immediately processed. People of Earth, the translation rendered in a neutral voice. I am Grand Admiral Vexhar of the Vesicar Dominion. Your planet is now under our protection and authority. Resistance is not advised. We have disabled your primitive communication systems and weapon platforms. Your governments have 6 hours to surrender formally. Failure to comply will result in demonstration strikes against uninhabited areas. Further failure will result in population center reduction. The message repeated in multiple languages, broadcasting on all frequencies. On the surface, government leaders followed their carefully rehearsed protocols, requesting time for deliberation, while secretly coordinating through quantum channels with Abyssal Shield Command. Status of Vesicar scanning systems, Hayes asked. They're conducting standard planetary assessment, replied Sensor Chief Rodrigo Vargas. Atmospheric composition, resource concentrations, population distribution. No deep ocean penetration detected. Hayes allowed herself a small smile. They haven't spotted a thing. The next 5 hours unfolded according to plan. Surface governments engaged in apparent frantic diplomacy, some nations publicly advocating surrender while others called for resistance, all carefully choreographed theater directed from the underwater command centers. The Vesicar, believing they were witnessing the disorganized panic of a primitive species, grew increasingly confident. At precisely 5 hours and 55 minutes after the ultimatum, Hayes gave the order that humanity had been preparing to execute for nearly a decade. Initiate Operation Poseidon's Trident. Throughout the world's oceans, massive underwater doors began to open. In the deepest trenches, along continental shelves, and within carefully hidden underwater canyons, humanity's secret fleet awakened. Nearly 2 million primary vessels and over 5 million support craft, powered by technologies reversed engineered from the vaulted archive, rose toward the surface in perfect synchronization. Aboard the Vesicar command ship, Grand Admiral Vexhar was reviewing final conquest protocols when his sensor officer interrupted with uncharacteristic urgency. Grand Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures emerging from the planet's oceans. Configurations unknown. Numbers impossible. Vexhar turned to the main viewport just as the first wave of Earth's hidden fleet broke the ocean surface. The water parted for vessels unlike anything the Vesicar had ever encountered, sleek, asymmetrical craft that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They rose not by the dozens or hundreds, but by the thousands, then tens of thousands, then millions. On the Abyssal Shield Command vessel Leviathan, Maya Rise, now captain of the most advanced warship ever built by human hands, watched her tactical display as the fleet executed a perfect deployment pattern. The ships moved with impossible grace, forming a multi-layered defensive sphere around the planet within minutes. All vessels report combat ready, her tactical officer announced. Quantum shields at full capacity. Graviton weaponry charged and locked. Maya opened a channel to the Vesikar command ship. This is Captain Maya Reyes of Earth Defense Force Leviathan, to Vesikar Command. Your assessment of our capabilities was flawed. Your ultimatum is rejected. You will power down your weapon systems and withdraw from Earth orbit immediately. Across the Vesikar fleet, confusion reigned. Nothing in their extensive conquest database had prepared them for this scenario. Their intelligence had shown Earth as a primitive world with rudimentary space capabilities, a few space stations, some lunar outposts, and conventional chemical rockets. The sudden appearance of millions of advanced warships violated every prediction their conquest models had generated. Grand Admiral Vexhar, however, had not conquered 17 worlds by lacking resolve. Defensive Formation Alpha. All weapons to full power. Launch fighter squadrons. The Vesikar fleet responded with practiced precision, their vessels realigning into a combat configuration as thousands of smaller craft poured from their hangar bays. Their weapons, devastating particle cannons that had reduced countless civilizations to submission, powered up, targeting the nearest Earth vessels. "They're preparing to fire," reported Maya's tactical officer. "Target lock detected on forward elements." Maya remained calm. "Deploy quantum displacement shields and prepare graviton pulse cannons. No first strike. Let them learn." The Vesikar weapons discharge. Brilliant beams of concentrated energy that had shattered the defenses of every civilization they had previously encountered. The beams struck the foremost Earth vessels and simply vanished. The quantum displacement shields, based on technology gleaned from the vaulted archive, but significantly enhanced by human innovation, didn't merely block the energy, they redirected it into subspace, rendering the attack completely ineffective. For 3 full seconds, the Vesikar fleet continued firing without effect. Then, as if finally processing the impossible reality before them, they ceased. "Now," ordered Maya. Measured response. The Earth fleet's front line activated their graviton pulse cannons, weapons that manipulated gravity itself. Rather than destroying the Vesikar ships, the pulses disrupted their internal artificial gravity systems and propulsion capabilities. Throughout the alien fleet, vessels began to drift, their crews experiencing sudden weightlessness and disorientation. In the Abyssal Shield Command Center, Admiral Hayes watched the confrontation unfold with satisfaction. "Open a fleet-wide channel to the Vesikar," she instructed. When the connection was established, Hayes spoke with calm authority. "This is Admiral Eliza Hayes, Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces. Your invasion has failed before it began. We have disabled your fleet's primary systems as a demonstration of our capabilities." This was the minimum possible response. Further hostile action will be met with escalating force. She paused, letting the implications sink in. "We are not a primitive species to be conquered. We are humanity, and we have been preparing for this day since we discovered your intentions. You have a choice. Retreat and spread the word that Earth is not to be threatened, or continue this ill-advised aggression and face the consequences." On the Vesikar command ship, Grand Admiral Vexhar stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. The humans had not only neutralized their initial attack, but had done so with technology that surpassed their own. More disturbing still was the implication that they had somehow known about the Vesikar long before first contact. "Impossible," he muttered. "Their technological level was assessed as pre-interstellar. Our intelligence cannot be this flawed." His second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Kelvor, approached cautiously. "Grand Admiral, preliminary analysis suggests their vessels utilize principles similar to ancient archive technology, systems we have encountered only in fragmentary form across the galaxy." Vexhar's eyes narrowed. "You suggest these humans have access to a complete archive. The evidence supports this conclusion. Their quantum shields operate on principles our scientists have theorized but never successfully implemented. Their graviton weapons demonstrate control over fundamental forces that exceeds our capabilities." The Grand Admiral faced an unprecedented situation. The Vesikar Dominion had expanded through the galaxy for 3 millennia, encountering only token resistance from technologically inferior species. Now they faced a civilization that had hidden its true capabilities until the perfect moment, springing a trap with devastating effectiveness. "Send reconnaissance drones," Vex-Har ordered. "I want detailed scans of their vessels." But before the order could be executed, the Earth fleet demonstrated another unexpected capability. Hundreds of small craft suddenly appeared around the Vesicar vessels, not having flown there, but simply materializing as if from nowhere. Aboard the Leviathan, Myrais monitored the deployment of the quantum displacement craft, vessels capable of short-range teleportation through controlled manipulation of space-time. "QD craft in position," her tactical officer reported. "Vesicar scanning systems neutralized." Maya nodded. "Maintain defensive posture. Let them consider their options." Throughout the galaxy, other civilizations that had either fallen to the Vesicar or lived in fear of them monitored the unprecedented confrontation through their own intelligence networks. For the first time in living memory, the Vesicar dominion had been checked, not by another galactic power, but by a species that had been deemed primitive enough to conquer. In the Abyssal Shield Command Center, Admiral Hayes received reports from their own deep space monitoring stations. "Word is spreading," she noted with satisfaction. "Just as we planned." The revelation of Earth's hidden fleet was more than just a defensive measure. It was a calculated introduction of humanity onto the galactic stage, not as victims or refugees, but as a force to be reckoned with. The next move belonged to the Vesicar. The question that hung in the vacuum of space: would pride drive them to escalation, or would survival instinct counsel retreat? Grand Admiral Vex-Har had built his career on conquest, but he had not survived this long by being foolish. As he studied the tactical displays showing millions of advanced Earth vessels surrounding his fleet, he made the decision that would forever change the Vesicar Dominion's approach to expansion. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Withdrawal pattern Omega. We have much to reconsider." Galactic revelation. The retreat of the Vesicar fleet should have marked the end of the confrontation. In most scenarios gamed out by Abyssal Shield strategists, a show of superior force would be sufficient to deter aggression. But Grand Admiral Vex-Har had not achieved his position by accepting defeat easily. As the main Vesicar Armada appeared to withdraw beyond lunar orbit, long-range sensors detected a troubling development. Admiral Hayes reported Sensor Chief Vargas, "We're tracking unusual movement from the Vesicar rear elements. They're not following the main fleet's retreat vector." On the strategic display, 27 Vesicar vessels, smaller than their massive capital ships, but still formidable, had broken formation and were accelerating toward Earth at maximum velocity. "Analysis suggests suicide tactics," Strategic Director Leo stated grimly. "They intend to breach our defense perimeter and detonate their drive cores in the atmosphere or on population centers." Hayes didn't hesitate. "Deploy quantum intercept squadrons. Authorization for full countermeasures." The order flashed through the quantum-entangled communication network. Within seconds, specialized Earth vessels designated as interceptors activated their most advanced capability: localized space-time manipulation. Rather than pursuing the incoming Vesicar ships, they created controlled distortions in the fabric of reality directly in their path. Aboard the lead Vesicar attack vessel, Commander Zexnar watched in confusion as his navigation systems suddenly reported impossible readings. The space ahead seemed to fold in on itself, creating a tunnel of distorted physics. "Evasive maneuvers," he ordered, but it was too late. His ship, along with the others in the Suicide Squadron, was caught in a phenomenon unlike anything in Vesicar experience. They found themselves trapped in a bubble of altered spacetime, where their propulsion systems and weapons were rendered ineffective by the modified physical laws within the containment field. From her position on the Leviathan, Myrais observed the successful containment operation with satisfaction. All 27 hostile vessels secured in quantum bubbles, she reported to Admiral Hayes. "No casualties. No breaches." Hayes nodded. "Open a direct channel to Grand Admiral Vex-Har." When the connection was established, her voice was steel. "Your suicide attack has failed, Grand Admiral. Your vessels and crews are contained but unharmed. This was your test of our capabilities and our resolve. Consider your test answered. There will not be another warning." To emphasize the point, she transmitted real-time footage of the contained Vezikar ships, helplessly suspended in the quantum bubbles. "Release my ships," demanded Vexhar, his translator struggling to convey the mixture of rage and disbelief in his voice. "They will be released once they have cleared the orbit of our outermost moon," Hayes replied. "Any deviation from a direct retreat vector will result in their permanent containment. We possess the capability to maintain these fields indefinitely." The implied threat was clear. The Vezikar could either accept defeat or lose 27 ships and crews forever. While this exchange occurred, Activity Director Sofia Delgado oversaw another critical operation from the Abyssal Shield Command Center. "Data package transmission to galactic communication nodes complete," she reported. "Distribution has begun." This was perhaps the most strategic element of humanity's response. During the brief confrontation, specialized Earth vessels had accessed the Vezikar communication network and uploaded detailed information about Earth, humanity, and their successful defense against the invasion. This data was now propagating throughout the galaxy via the Vezikar's own communication infrastructure, ensuring that every civilization connected to the galactic network would learn of the Dominion's defeat. "Quantum entanglement signatures detected," announced Communications Director Al-Zawrani with evident satisfaction. "The package is being replicated across multiple networks. Galactic distribution at 17% and climbing rapidly." The implications were profound. Within hours, thousands of worlds, many suffering under Vezikar occupation, would learn that the supposedly invincible Dominion had been repelled by a species they had deemed primitive. The psychological impact would be incalculable. On the main display, the Vezikar fleet continued its retreat, now including the released containment ships. Long-range sensors confirmed they were establishing a new position beyond Mars orbit, close enough to maintain observation but far enough to be non-threatening. "They're not leaving the system entirely," noted Director Liu. "They're reassessing." "As expected," Hayes replied. "The Vezikar Dominion hasn't survived for millennia by being reckless. They'll analyze every aspect of our technology, searching for weaknesses. Which is precisely why we showed them only what we wanted them to see," Dr. Sanjay Patel interjected. The quantum physicist had been monitoring the confrontation with particular interest. "The technologies we deployed today represent only our first-tier capabilities. Our more advanced systems remain in reserve." This had been a key element of the strategy from the beginning. Operation Abyssal Shield had developed multiple tiers of technology, deliberately holding back their most revolutionary advancements to maintain strategic advantage. What the Vezikar had witnessed was impressive enough to force a retreat, but revealed nothing of humanity's true capabilities. As the immediate crisis subsided, attention turned to the broader implications. The existence of the underwater fleet was now known to the world's population, necessitating a transition from secrecy to global coordination. Governments worldwide began implementing the long-prepared public disclosure protocols, explaining the threat and the response in carefully crafted messages designed to minimize panic. In orbit, elements of the Earth fleet began establishing defensive positions, while others returned to their underwater bases for maintenance and rearmament. The swift victory had confirmed the effectiveness of their technology, but also highlighted the need for continued vigilance. 3 days after the confrontation, the first responses from other galactic civilizations began to arrive. Quantum communication systems detected encrypted transmissions directed toward Earth from multiple sources beyond the solar system. "We're receiving contact attempts from 17 distinct civilizations," reported Communications Director Al-Zawrani with barely contained excitement. "Analysis suggests most are from worlds previously conquered or threatened by the Vezikar." Admiral Hayes authorized cautious responses, establishing preliminary diplomatic channels. The content of these communications was revelatory. Many were expressions of astonishment and respect. Others offered alliance proposals, and some provided additional intelligence about Vezikar capabilities and territories. Most significant was a transmission from a coalition calling itself the Galactic Sphere, a loose association of spacefaring civilizations that had maintained independence through mutual defense pacts. Their message was direct. They wished to establish formal relations with Earth and invited human representatives to their central council. "They're treating us as equals," Maya observed as she reviewed the transmission aboard the Leviathan. "Not as newcomers to be patronized or primitives to be guided, but as a power to be respected." This had been the ultimate goal of Operation Abyssal Shield's architects, not merely to defend Earth, but to ensure humanity entered the galactic community from a position of strength. The strategy had worked better than anyone had dared hope. 2 weeks after the Vezikar retreat, Admiral Hayes convened the full Leadership Council of Abyssal Shield. Representatives from every major nation and scientific discipline gathered in the Underwater Command Center to assess their new reality. "The Vezikar remain in our system," she began, maintaining observation positions beyond Mars. "Intelligence suggests they are engaged in intense internal debate about how to proceed. Their conquest protocols have failed, forcing a fundamental reassessment of their approach to Earth and the rest of the galaxy," asked President Kamechi. "We've established preliminary communication with 34 spacefaring civilizations," replied Director Al-Zahrani. "Many have suffered under Vezikar expansion. Our successful defense has created what analysts are calling a hope cascade. Subject worlds are beginning to question Vezikar dominance." Dr. Patil added, "Perhaps most significantly, we've received technological exchange proposals from several advanced civilizations. They're impressed with our quantum manipulation capabilities and eager to establish scientific cooperation." The discussions continued for hours, addressing the myriad challenges and opportunities presented by humanity's sudden emergence onto the galactic stage. Eventually, a consensus emerged. Earth would maintain its defensive posture while carefully expanding diplomatic and scientific exchanges with selected civilizations. 1 month after the confrontation, the Vezikar finally broke their silence. Grand Admiral Vexhar requested a direct communication with Earth's leadership. The request was granted, with Admiral Hayes representing humanity. "The Vezikar Dominion acknowledges Earth's defensive capabilities," Vexhar stated with evident reluctance. "We propose a mutual non-aggression pact and recognition of Earth's sovereignty within its solar system." It was, effectively, a concession of defeat, unprecedented in Vezikar history. More telling was what remained unspoken: no demand for technological exchange, no request for resource access, no insistence on oversight of human expansion. The Dominion was treating Earth as it would any major galactic power. "We accept your proposal," Hayes responded, "with the understanding that any future Vezikar aggression against Earth or its interests will be met with appropriate response." The implication was clear. Humanity would not remain confined to its solar system forever. The stars beckoned, and Earth's hidden fleet, now revealed to the galaxy, stood ready to protect human expansion. As the communication ended, Hayes found herself standing with Maya Reyes at the observation dome of the Abyssal Shield Command Center. Through the transparent quantum-reinforced material, they could see a portion of the vast underwater fleet in its docking configuration. Thousands of vessels stretching into the oceanic darkness. "We built all this expecting to fight for our survival," Maya said quietly. "Instead, we've secured our place among the stars without firing a shot in anger." Hayes nodded. "The best victory is the one that doesn't require full demonstration of your capabilities. We showed enough to deter the Vezikar without revealing our true strength." "And now?" "Now," Hayes replied, "we join the galactic community as equals, not as supplicants or refugees. Humanity will expand to the stars not through conquest, like the Vezikar, but through innovation and cooperation. We'll form our own path." In the darkness of space, beyond the orbit of Mars, Grand Admiral Vexhar watched the holographic representation of Earth rotating slowly before him. For 3 millennia, the Vesicar dominion had expanded unchallenged, building an empire spanning hundreds of worlds. Now, a species that had been assessed as barely worth noticing had not only halted their advance, but changed the very nature of galactic politics. "Send word to the High Command," he instructed his communications officer. "Earth is not to be approached without explicit authorization." Classification: Apex Civilization. It was the highest threat designation in the Vesicar database, previously assigned to only 2 other species in their long history. As the message transmitted across vast distances to the Vesicar homeworld, Vexhar contemplated the implications. The carefully maintained hierarchy of galactic civilizations had been disrupted by humanity's emergence. The consequences would echo across the stars for centuries to come. On Earth, as news of the non-aggression pact spread, humanity began the complex process of adapting to their new reality. The knowledge that they were not alone in the universe, and that they had successfully defended themselves against a galactic power, transformed human society in fundamental ways. National divisions that had seemed insurmountable began to fade in importance compared to humanity's shared destiny among the stars. The vast underwater fleet, built in desperate secrecy, became a symbol of human ingenuity and determination. What had begun as a desperate gamble for survival had transformed into humanity's passport to the cosmos. And beneath the world's oceans, in facilities stretching across the abyssal plains, work continued. New vessels were constructed, technologies refined, and strategies developed. The galaxy had taken notice of humanity. The journey had just begun.